welcome to Creating a Universe. I'm your host, William J. Rogers, and today I'm here with singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and overall power metal aficionado, Mr. Garrett Campbell. How's it going, Garrett?
Going great, Will. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, man. I've been really looking forward to do this one for a while. I was telling you, I haven't actually done one of these interview episodes in ages, but I just really wanted to get an opportunity to have a good chat, so really looking forward to this. To kick us off, would you be able to just start us with a little bit of an introduction to who you are and what you do, your various projects and so on?
Of course. So my name is Garrett Campbell. I'm a power metal musician mainly, although I enjoy all different types of music, as most of us do. My main instruments are guitar and then voice. Those would be my main two, but I also do production and stuff like that. So I have one album to my name so far. It's called Skies of Dragonlight. It's on Spotify and everything. And then I've released a few singles. And then I've been over the last year working on some collaborations with different artists like Rodrigo Espinoza and what's his name? Some other people. Too many to remember their names. But yeah, so I really enjoy power metal, and that's what I want to be remembered for as a singer. So
Awesome, man.
I don't know if that answers your question, but sorry for my lack of English skills.
It's a great start, man. Yeah, that's cool. And so I'd love to chat about various things. It's awesome that you've been busy doing loads of collabs and everything as well. But you know, as you mentioned that, I think the obvious place to start would be talking about Skies of Dragonlight, your first solo album, which, from what I understand, you know, you've written all of, and you've like performed all the instruments and produced the whole thing. It's an undertaking to do a project like that, right? So I'd love to just chat about that album for a bit, and what was your process like putting that whole thing together?
Great question. So Skies of Dragonlight started before 2020, actually. So 2020 was when I had a lot of free time, of course, with COVID. And so that's when a lot of the songwriting happened. So I had ideas for the album as a concept long before then. You know, when I first started to get into metal, I got into bands like, you know, Rhapsody, Majestica, Twilight Force. I was lucky to come on the scene when Majestica was a thing, but even Rainseed before then. They all had that storytelling, majestic, like inspirational feel to them, to me. And I always wanted to make an album that paid tribute to that. I mean, you can even see that I have them right here. I even patterned these albums covers off of each other in a slight way, color-wise, you know. So for me, it was about telling a story. I see so much modern music is so polished and good, like very talented people, but there's no story behind it, you know. Like there's nothing that I can grab onto unless I've had the breakup that they had, or I've experienced the same religious experience that they had, you know. So Skies of Dragonlight started as a concept of, hey, I want to make a fantasy thing like Rhapsody of Fire. And have you heard the Symphony of Enchanted Lands 2, where Christopher Lee is the narrator?
Yeah, very cool, man.
That was my favorite Rhapsody of Fire album to this day. I'm not a big fan of some of the more recent stuff, but yeah, it's legendary.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you know, again, I think, you know, definitely kindred spirits in that way, because I just think storytelling and music it's just kind of my favorite thing, really. And so I love that you chose like such a storytelling direction. I mean, in the record, you really go into that. I mean, there's lots of dialogue in it. There's lots of storytelling. Also, you know, you're doing a sort of audio drama thing in between songs often, you know, with different voices of different characters, you know, exchanging this dialogue. So the story is really upfront, which is awesome. You know, I think a really cool thing actually would be like, would you be able to tell us about the story for the album?
Of course. I'm so glad you asked. So let's see, where do I start? So the story behind Skies of Dragonlight is a story that we can all resonate with. It's a guy from his homeland that he loves, and he has problems just like anyone else does. And one of these problems is this evil mage who's been cursing the lands for centuries. His name is the Mage of the Hellspell, and he has slowly turned back starlight. So in this universe, the fantasy world, the star is a symbol of hope and a brighter future. You know, it's the sun. It's what they look up to in the sky, you know, when times are hard. And so the mage's trying to block out starlight, you know, with his curse. basically, is in essence robbing them of life. It's like if you took water out of a desert land, it's killing them. And so Therian is who I play. That's my, character. You'll see in some of the music videos, I dress up as him with his whole outfit and things. So he is a young guy like me. Like when I recorded the album, I think I was 17, 18.
Wow.
And when I wrote the songs, I was like 15, 16. So just a real young
Amazing.
lad with no life experience,
Mm-hmm.
And so I really enjoy hearing how that came to fruition. And even my voice back then was like less mature. You can hear that youthful vigor when he's like, I will go fight the mage, So Therian is very overconfident for sure. And that was the point. He thinks that he can just go do anything. And that's a projection of me, as an individual. And then realizing, whoa, this guy, is stronger than I thought. So along the road, to kill this guy, he meets this elf lady named Leorena, voiced by one of my good friends, and they fall in love and they go to fight the mage together. They end up losing. Therian gets banished to this cursed realm, and there he finds a lot of contemplation on what is the meaning of life? What am I like? Why am I here? Was this worth it? Was all these values and core beliefs that I held about me and my home and myself and the universe, were they important enough for me to be here? And I think that's something we can all, at least I personally have faced in my life. Those moments where you're like, were all those things that I knew to be true, you start doubting them in those really, really hard moments. But yeah, the song Till Then remains one of my favorite songs, even though I absolutely hate the way I started the song vocally. I wish I could have that take again, man. Like, I want to redo that take. The way I sang it, like, back then, I was so much less relaxed as a vocalist that I would always kind of like, here I sit, like I would catch it in my throat.
Yes.
But I still enjoy the song. I actually used a chain wallet, like the chain wallet that I used to wear for the little, the bridge part, like the little ching sound. So I enjoyed making that song, man. Like, it was a blast.
Yeah.
And it's still one of those songs where when I listen to it, like, I want to redo it someday. That is one of those songs that, like, 15 years down the road, I want to make, like, that be the bonus track on another album and, like, remaster it and re-record it. So, yeah, after that, Therian, he gets out of the Cursed Realm with the help of the Galactic Wizard, who is the kind of god figure in an analogy sense. I like everything in the universe that I create to have, like, multiple meanings that you can kind of interpret from it so that you as an individual can interpret it and it can be encouraging in your life.
I like that.
Not just me, So the Galactic Wizard saves him when no one else can, like God has done for me in my own life. And then Therian goes and fights the mage, and of course he wins, and there's this big old happy moment at the end. And a lot of people have criticized me for making that ending too cheesy. And I get it's cheesy, and I wanted it to be cheesy.
Yeah, that's it, man. It's gotta hit that message home, right? Yeah. This archetypal storytelling just has such a fundamental power to it. It's yeah, sure, we might all kind of know how this story is going to go, but that's what's special. These are as you said, it's about inspiration and uplifting people, right? And you can't get enough of that. Yeah, so awesome, man. I love the concept. I love the story. Well, I have a couple of questions. I'm trying to choose which way to go first. I mean, whilst we're talking about the story, is this a story that you can imagine yourself continuing in future records or whatever, or do you feel like this is really just the story that goes with this album?
There's actually much of the story that I want to continue on because I resonate so deeply with Therian as a character now. And little shameless plug, so to speak, the Therian Saga Part 2 is actually in the works. It's actually very far in the works. So that album will be coming out. Yeah, I'm excited, man. Like, I'm having trouble with my computer right now, as you might have seen online. So a lot of my original files for the album I can't find them, like, they're gone. And so I'm probably going to have to release it with the mix that I have, which is going to be less than ideal, but we'll figure it out. So I will continue it on. It's going to be a continuous saga. I'm not sure about Part 3. So like I said, Part 2 is already, like, all the lyrics, all the music I've already written. A lot of it's already recorded. But Part 3, I do have most of the songs written, but I just don't know at this stage in my life if I can continue it on right now.
Cool, man. Well, that's very exciting to know about. So the other part that I was thinking is, well, it's incredible that you put all this together as a teenager. There must be people out there, but I don't recall coming across anybody that so young was able to create a record like this all by themselves, like so elaborate with the storytelling, producing it all, the orchestration and everything. So that's incredible. Hats off to you for that. And I'd love to get a little bit more insight to your process, because you're thinking about songwriting, you're thinking about this story. What comes first, and how does it get from an idea to a finished product? What does that process look like for you?
Man, that is such a good question. Jeez. The first thing that I do is always sit in a dark room that's quiet and have some vision in my head of what the song I'm writing needs to be about. Either that or like how I want it to make people feel. It's generally one of those two things. Like, so for Skies of Dragonlight, it wasn't like a typical record where you write 100 songs and then you pick the best 7. Like I know this producer from Nashville, he produces vocals, and like that's how he works. So he's always writing songs that are not worked. But this has to be tied together, so it's different. And so it is difficult in that way because you have a specific set of events, like in a movie, that you have to have take place in the album. And so you're thinking to yourself in a Word document or whatever, okay, like I have all these songs that I've written, like to some degree. Like I remember Goblin Eyes was just a guitar riff at the start. It was just that like classic Avantasia style, just basic power metal riff, that everyone loves, the pedal point, high guitar string riff. And that was what spawned that entire song. But then to work up to that, it's a lot of playing around with demo tracks. Like I made an entire folder. I still have it somewhere on that hard drive that's corrupted. Maybe someday I'll pay the $700 and get it off.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not at this point. I'm a college student, bro. I ain't spending that money.
For sure.
But yeah, I enjoyed the process. So the process went from writing songs and being just straight up creative, and just being able to do that, to at some point, because it's a specific story that you have to tell. I started to like plot out the different things, and I used flashcards. So I use flashcards to write down like different scenes and even different specific dialogues. So like Enrod, the wizard, who I do voice. If you know me, you know, you can tell that it's me, because I didn't want to hire someone. Just a broke high school student, like I didn't want to hire someone. So
I'll just do a wizard voice.
Just do a wizard voice or something. And it's funny. Enrod does return in an album too, by the way. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
So be looking forward to that. But
yes.
Yeah, so my process was songwriting and then putting those songs like together as far as arranging them. Which means writing guitar parts, like finishing those songs as far as like writing bridges. And most of the time I'll just like take my phone and record it on voice memos or something. And write, okay, like Skies of Dragonlight, bridge, guitar, solo idea 1. And then I'll come back to that and put them all together. And sometimes you write a bridge and you're like, this is awesome. But then you write something better and then the bridge becomes the tag or something like that. And so it's a fun process, but it is nerve-wracking because until you get out of those demo projects and like get into your project template that you finally create, which also was the first time I ever did that. Like Stay Together for the Glory, that was the first power metal song I ever recorded, like front to back, full song, not just like a little mini song. But to have a template for an entire album is pretty daunting. And I actually recorded the entire album on GarageBand, if you can believe it.
Wow. That's even crazier to think that you were a teenager on GarageBand making this, man. Like, damn, that's impressive, man. That is so cool.
Yeah, GarageBand gave me fits. It was a heck of a time trying to export the actual tracks. So
did you have the whole album in the single project?
So I divided it into each song.
Okay.
But then that was a mess because I tried to export like the main vocal as a dry track, and then the string 1 as a dry track, and then the cellos as a dry track. So I remember that was the first time that I stayed up like till 1 a.m. which might sound stupid because like most teenagers are staying up till like 4.
Yes.
But I remember that was the first time, and I was listening to Dim Have with Daniel Hyman that night that I was like just watching it export. Just export the next track and hit export because in GarageBand, you can't do multiple tracks in GarageBand.
Oh my
So
word.
that was a lot of fun.
Yes, the tedious part, for sure. But I mean, so with that, I guess from what you're saying, I suppose the thing is it's never really clear cut, is it? Like you do this bit and then you do that bit. You've kind of always feeling it out and it's coming, you're getting story ideas, you're getting musical ideas. But it sounds like fairly early in the process, you had quite a good idea of the story you wanted to tell. And then anytime you wrote music, you're able to kind of be like, this feels right for this part of the story. Is that fair?
Yes, that's extremely fair. Because you might notice throughout the album, later in the album, it gets much more classic power metal. Like Battle for Eternal Starlight, I'd say that's the most in form as far as like intro, verse, guitar solo, whatever. It's the most just straightforward. And I meant that on purpose because Therian knows what he's wanting at that point. It's basic, he's laid it out. It's not undefined. And so you're right, until it's like recorded, I don't have the specific like details as far as the orchestration does this and then the guitar does this. I always do the orchestration first because I actually watched the Rhapsody of Fire documentary and they said they did it first. And so I was like, okay, I'm doing it first.
Nice.
So a little Rhapsody worship.
Yeah, nice. I mean, that's cool that you're coming from, again, like having the story and then almost scoring the story and then making metal songs, on top of that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and I actually wrote like 7 chapters of a fantasy book before I ever did Skies of Dragonlight. And it was
amazing.
Pretty trashy, like not terrible, but like my sister, Garrett Campbell, is a published author, like that's her thing.
Amazing.
So she helped me with a bit, but so I knew like how a story is supposed to work. Like I remember before that, I didn't realize how each of those good stories that I really, really loved, like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or whatever, they have plot points, they have specific things that have to happen, and it's all very planned out. Mm-hmm. And so I actually did the same thing for Skies of Dragonlight in the story.
Brilliant.
And also part 2. Because otherwise, you can't resolve everything that you want to resolve. And then Leorina gets stranded somewhere and nobody knows what's happening or whatever.
Yes, that's I think the difference is that if you go in clean, you can write a cool thing, but as you say, to really get a good story, there's so much about, it's about the rhythm of those beats, to use a musical term, right? So you got to hit those story beats, and as you say, with like a hero's journey type of story arc, like, there's really key things that you want to happen at key times, otherwise the story becomes unfocused and so on. So I mean, you nailed on the most key thing, I think, with you putting so much focus into that internal conflict that the character has to resolve. And yes, of course, there's a big external thing with an evil mage, but like really it's about, what he has to overcome within himself, right? And questioning his beliefs and, then having that kind of epiphany moment where he can go on and become, who he needs to be to win. So yeah, it's awesome. And I think can tell that you've put that together with, decent knowledge and stuff about storytelling, which is really cool. Was the novel that you were writing, was that related in any way to this or completely separate?
It was completely separate.
Or just a fantasy story?
Exactly. Like different world. It had an evil mage. There was like a big plot twist where the mage is like revealed. I didn't end up doing that with Therian. I actually thought Enrod might be like a bad guy when I first started writing him, but no, I didn't end up pulling from that at all for Skies of Dragonlight.
Fair. Yeah, fair. That's it's all really awesome, man. And I mean, you said about some of the more straightforward kind of power metal songs, which is great, but you're also like so often at the time just completely like rebellious in terms of traditional form. You know what I mean? Progressive in a way. Like you will just do what you want. And it's really awesome because, well, even just the fact that you have so much dialogue and things in the tracks and then, just so much progressive movement. between songs. Like, well, as you put out right at the beginning as your intention, like the storytelling is really just like the driving force, and the music will do what the story needs it to do. And I love how bold that is. I mean, what would you say your approach is like when doing things like that?
The music always follows the story, like you're saying. So I'm always thinking, what would a soundtrack to Therian fighting an evil mage sound like? Or what would a soundtrack to Therian getting lost in the stars? And I love that song, Lost in the Stars. It's, probably the least streamed one because it's just an instrumental track. But it's a great example of a song that needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my process, if I could define it, would be find those plot points. And then a lot of times I have specific like things that need to happen in the story written out in a Word doc. Like I had this big old Skies of Dragonlight ideas Word doc that was like 70 pages or something. It looked like a college assignment with terrible formatting. I probably used like some fancy font for all the lettering. It was very unreadable, but I understood it. So
that's it. It's just our scrapbook, isn't it? It's just more about your creative inspiration than anything else.
You hit the nail on the head, man. Yeah, and it was fun to do, but the process is that word is so hard for me to define as an artist, because when I find myself writing like, I need to write a riff for this, or I need to write a guitar solo for this thing, I'm never like really that creative. So as far as the story goes, I'm trying to answer your original question. The music following the story comes naturally for me because I always love soundtracks and like Hans Zimmer, Danny Elfman, all the stuff. And I just love messing around on a keyboard. Like I have a MIDI keyboard that I plug in a MIDI cord that plugs into the AUX on my computer, and then it plugs into the two MIDI, the in and out. And then it's real basic, no audio interface, no nothing. I just play, So I really enjoy like film scoring as a art. And I've actually done a film score to my sister's little short film that she made for college. And I really enjoyed it. So I just love playing around with those plugins, with orchestras. So usually what I would do is I would get up before school every single day. I think for about close to a year, every single day I'd get up and I would work for about an hour on Skies of Dragonlight, on orchestrating it. So you have to imagine it's not one project, which made it a little easier. Like I said, I had individual projects for each song, but it did make it hard to think how those were going to translate. Because if one song is like a gajillion strings and stuff, the mix is not going to work very well in a song with like 2 strings. So you kind of have to be mindful of some of those things as an arranger. But yeah, I would just like think, okay, what is indicative of what I'm trying to tell? Like, I remember scoring the song On Wings of Arcane Magic, and the song is about traveling. It's going hunting high and low. That's a Stradivarius reference, of course, searching high and low. And I used it's called a yanquin. I believe it's a Japanese instrument, but don't quote me on that.
It's yes.
It's
that
like
did
a
stand
very
out to my ears. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has that like, I think I also used a harp, and I think I also used a erhu, which I believe it's somewhere over there. I wanted it to sound very oriental because I love that type of music.
I know who is Chinese, I believe.
And
like
it sounds
traditional
beautiful.
Chinese.
Yeah, I love traditional Chinese music. It's so like you can hear how they craft music like we do. It's just they use different instruments for the same. Like they'll use a different type of drum when we use drums. And so I wanted to pay homage in my humble, Midwestern white man way, to as much as I could to these beautiful sounds. And so I really tried to pull from different artists, even in the way I sang, which I always do. But whether it's Christian Eriksen from Twilight Force, who has to be my top, maybe number 2 singer of all time. Yeah, so the story and the songs for me flow as soon as I start orchestrating it. They really start to flow out. And to me, the story, I want it to be like a movie. And so I score it as if it's a movie. You hear one of my favorite moments in the entire album, even though I hate the song Goblin Eyes. Like I didn't edit it. I don't know. I didn't edit any of the guitars. It's so out of like rhythm and stuff, with the different instruments and orchestration. Like I didn't even quantize the strings on that. I don't know why. But one of my favorite moments is on Goblin Eyes when Therian's like fighting the mage and I put sword sound effects and stuff because it sounds like a movie. And that's Man, I
Yes.
just love those moments. The epic moments, like, it just gives me chills, you know?
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, yeah. I think that just helps give further context to that point. I think it's just that, yeah, it's so much about the story and then scoring this story, you know, making it this immersive experience and then enriching that with, you know, power metal galore. So yeah, I love that as a process, man. It's really, really cool. I just have to ask because you threw out your number 2 all-time vocalist, so we have to know who your all-time number 1 favorite vocalist is now.
That's an easy one, man. Tommy Johansson, number 1.
Oh, cool, man.
He's what got me into
Yes.
power metal, like Majestica. This was, I've said this before, this was the first metal album I ever bought. I snuck this in because I didn't want my dad to see it. I come from a very
Nice.
conservative household, and this was so edgy for me back in the day, you know.
Wow.
And it's a fantastic album. I listen to it all the time. And
I
Tommy
always
was
thought
really
that
the one who. Go ahead. Sorry.
all I was gonna say is that I always thought they had like the best logo ever. Like for a name logo, you know, I just love the Majestica logo.
Yeah. Well, the way they did the dragon, I'm just like,
Yes.
if I could
Yeah.
find that artist, like, give me a logo, man.
Yeah. 100%. No, that's awesome. Yeah, he's an absolute powerhouse. Just all round musician, but yeah, incredible. I feel like I could really talk to you all day about the whole like music storytelling aspect. You know, that's just such a cool topic. You know, it sounds like you have so much that you can share about that. So that's really cool. But I would like to also touch upon some of the other stuff you're doing. You've been, you know, you've done a great job of being really active on YouTube and stuff for quite a while. You make lots of videos, all sorts of videos. You've had videos where you're doing like guitar stuff and you're teaching things and you're talking and giving great advice on things, but you're also done loads of great covers and loads of great collaborations and such with people. So I'd love to chat with you about that side of things. And how did you get into that? And what's your journey been like on that side of things?
Yes. Great question, man. I'm really enjoying this this chat. So thanks for having me once again.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I think my first video was the Fretboard Mastery review. I reviewed this book, and I believe I was 14 at the time. It was the first year that I had played guitar. I started when I was 14, and I made that video and the ones after that with the specific goal of I love guitar and music, and I know a tiny, tiny, tiny bit about it. So I just want to share what I have with other people so that they can love it more. So that's how Reborn Rock Guitar was the original name. That's how Reborn Rock Guitar, the channel, came to be. And that first video actually now, I mean, it's done fantastic. So I'm really lucky and I feel very blessed that, you know, I stumbled upon a format of videos that is engaged, that people like. Not that that's why I do it, but yeah, after that, I released a couple little covers that I did on GarageBand with my sister and also some how to play guitar with a capo, I believe, and other videos like that. I even did a series on power metal where I talked about, and I think I reviewed this album too.
Nice.
You could see back then my my like baggy shirt and like my arms are skinnier than they already are, and it was just fun to see the transition. You know, like my hair getting longer and then me cutting it eventually, and like you kind of see these milestones, and it's fun to have them recorded. Yeah, the journey as far as a YouTuber is very strange because you'll make a video that you put way more effort into, and it does terrible. Like my Midnight Bells vocal cover is still one of my favorite vocal covers that I've done, and it has like the least views of any of them. And I put more effort into the like production and getting a good like light on me and stuff. Most of the time, I don't even care. I just like have my window up here that I just let do the work.
Nice.
But yeah, it's very strange, and I know any YouTuber who's out there, no matter if they're 1 million subscribers or 2, knows that it's hard to get the algorithm to work. So I think I went for about a year or so where I didn't post very much. When I was getting into college, I tried not to focus on that too much so it wouldn't be a distraction, but I tried to keep it going. And now I'm really focused on and obsessed over this idea of being authentic. Like just, you know, owning my insecurities. Whether it's, I always had a slightly higher voice and I never really appreciated my voice in my earlier videos. I'm like, hey man, like I'm just like yelling and stuff. And I look back on that now and I'm like, dude, that was so cringy. But I actually find it enjoyable, like as a learning process to do YouTube. So I'm transitioning more from like reviews of stuff, which I still have some plans to do some actually. I might do another like pedal review of this Behringer pedal I got. It's actually pretty good. It's like a noise reducer pedal. I'm really focusing on balancing the original music with content that reaches, because there's a difference between like engagement and reach sometimes. So it's fun, but it definitely has been a journey of like what works, what doesn't, and then what do I know won't work, and then I'm still willing to do it. Because there's a lot of videos that I know are not going to perform, but I just want to put them out there. That's still my goal, is just to bless other people with whatever I have.
That's awesome, man.
I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. I love that. And in terms of like all the collabs and things, how do those come about? Do you chat to a lot of people, like-minded people that are also making stuff, and how does it get from meeting each other to being like, oh, let's do this cover and getting it to where it is?
So my first connection, I'd say, in power metal that I can remember, and this one really springboarded me into the scene like more. I started to get to know people. I remember I was looking up from time to time Twilight Force vocal cover. I wanted to see if someone could sing it, because I'm always trying to figure out how to sing it better, because it's still, especially Alessandro Conti's vocals for me are like even harder than Christian Eriksen's. But I'm always trying to figure out how to sing them better. And so I stumbled upon this video, is Twilight Force's new single, and it was Noah Simmons, who you probably know. He's the vocalist from Questbound, Seven Thorns, Memories of Old, fantastic band. I also have their CD. And I commented on his video, and I was just like, hey man, this is great. I don't even remember what I said, but just something short and sweet, And he replied, and then I checked out some more of his YouTube videos, and we ended up connecting on Facebook and Messenger, and just kind of became friends. And now we shoot each other ideas if we're working on power metal. Like the recent project I was on, Aspirations, he was working on that too, so we sang a song together. So
very nice.
Really, for me, it's like those first connections that you make, transitioning those from friends to connections, and you just can't force it, So most of the time, if I DM someone on Instagram, about a post they have, like, it won't go anywhere. But I found Facebook a lot of times has some really good artists that are really into connecting with their fan base. And so that's how I do it most of the time, is through Messenger.
Yeah, amazing, man. That's cool. And it's a good lesson, isn't it? You just got to put yourself out there. But as you say, not force it, just be chill, be a cool guy, do your thing. And, it's awesome. Like, you've been able to do collaborations and things with some really awesome people. And yeah, it's always nice to have that network and to connect with, kindred spirits and that, right?
For sure. Yeah,
Nice.
I like having the community. It's amazing. Like the power metal community specifically, is the one that I know the most people in. And man, there are some extremely kind people and extremely talented people who they would have every right in the world to have an ego complex, but they're so nice, so humble.
For sure.
It's awesome.
There's just so much passion, right? And we all love what we do so much in these kind of creative spaces that, when we find kindred spirits like that, it's an enriching experience for all of us. So yeah, it's amazing. I wanted to ask you, just to like roll it all the way back to the start, like how you first got into music and what your kind of journey was, your progression from like your first musical notes to where you are now.
So the story of my music journey, I like that. So I started music when I was around 7, actually. I took piano lessons. So I was actually homeschooled all the way through. My mom, rest in peace, she was a professional teacher. And so she taught me and my sister all the way through.
And that's all education, not just music.
Yes. Yeah. All education.
Yeah, amazing.
All the way through high school. The only reason she could do that is because she had so much patience. Like
It's
You know,
incredible. Yeah.
I don't know if I could have that much patience with my kids. But yeah, so I started piano like at 7 because she was like, hey, we want music to be a part of you. You don't have to love it, but I put effort into it. We had piano lessons with this really kind lady. She was just a private teacher, and she had foster kids, and it's just real casual setting, just a really sweet lady. And we did that for about, I don't know, till I was about 11. And then when I was 13, we moved here to Tulsa, which is where I'm now. So that's when I'd been on a long hiatus from piano for a while. I hadn't been playing. I didn't really have an interest in it. I was mostly just doing sports. Like I did flag football and baseball and stuff. My height didn't end up working out for that because I kind of hit a plateau and didn't really fill out my figure like I thought I would. So music is working. But yeah, about that time I started getting into guitar, and have a really like dumb guitar story. As far as how I got into it, it's nothing like cool at all. So I just remembered one day when I was really bored, like after school. I think it was like 5 o'clock in the day. I was tired, and I was like, I think my dad has a acoustic guitar in this hard case sitting under the pool table in the other room, in the dining room. And I was like, okay, let me go see. And so I went into the dining room, and like, sure enough, there it is, collecting dust. And I opened it up. In fact, it's sitting right over there. I still use it to record stuff, and it was on the album.
Amazing.
And I played it, and I don't know. I don't even remember that day, like as far as what I learned or what I did. But I ended up getting Fretboard Mastery, that book, from the library, and it was one of those things you can't cause. Like, I loved it so much. I bought every book in the library. I bought every book from Barnes and Noble about guitar, and I just loved it. Just fell in love. Like, I just enjoyed doing it, and so I was practicing, like, I don't know, at the start.
That's all right. No worries. It's just all right. Take your time.
At the start, I was practicing about, I don't know, like a couple hours a day, like after school. But then as I got more into it and I started to really get into that book, and also, same guy wrote this book, which is my favorite technique book. It's called Speed Mechanics for Lead Guitar. I also have a review about that if anyone's interested. But yeah, started practicing like 6 hours, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, I would clock it and just go into my room, be a hermit, and just, work on the minute things, I have a mirror in my room that I still use to practice in front of, just like a $15 Walmart mirror, really cheap, but it works. And so that's how I got into guitar. But as far as genre, I really fell in love with heavy metal, I would say about halfway through that. So
halfway through the guitar playing.
Halfway through, like me being 13.
Right. Okay. Got you.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a bad analogy, but I'd say about half a year into getting into guitar, I was listening to music on my dad's iPod that he still had, blast from the past, and I saw this artist. It was like, what was it? It was some like Christian metal band, like a typical like metalcore or hardcore or something, Like, I'm not really into that kind of music, but I clicked on it, and it was like the heaviest thing I'd ever heard. It was probably, I don't even remember who it was, Disciple or something, which is not that heavy now that I listen to it, like now. Sure. But that blew me away, man, because I was listening to Third Day was a huge influence for me back in the day. I still love them. Just a solid, like, Southern rock Christian band, like that's what I was raised on. For the longest time, I would swear on nothing but Third Day. I hated pop. I was like a pop hater, and so I just listened to the rock because it had guitar solos, and that's what I really loved. Like, that was what I was into, and like distorted guitars. And then I got into a band called, what was it called? Ashes Remain. And they're like a, typical run-of-the-mill American Christian kind of hard rock band. Kind of like Skillet. I don't know if you've heard of Skillet. They're pretty famous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Stuff like Skillet and like that, like Red, Skillet. They're very talented people, and they've actually kind of gone more like mainstream, as even not in the Christian route. But that exposed me to more like, whoa, there's some really cool guitar music. And so how I got into heavy metal was through guitar, because I loved Andy James, the guitar instructor, Lick Library. I don't know if you've heard of them. I would just watch all their videos. I always had some guitar book on my wish list. Like I got this for Christmas that year. Yeah, so guitar for me was the gateway into metal because to me, like playing pop and playing jazz just seemed so like boring. Specifically because I wasn't listening to the good jazz that has good guitar in it.
Sure. Yeah.
Now I love jazz, and the TCC jazz band where I go, I'm always like blown away from what they do, and I'm inspired to do that. But back then, I thought jazz was dumb. I was like, why do I need to know what a half diminished seventh chord is? Which I still question when I'm doing music theory right now in college.
Cool. That's right.
But yeah, it was gradual, I'd say. Like I got into metal and guitar playing, and I wanted to play fast, which is why I got this book here. I just liked the way it sounded fast. And of course, I made the beginner mistakes of doing sweep picking, and it just sounded like nothing because my left hand was super slow. But I learned over time, and yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I am today as far as like my technique. I really like Yngwie Malmsteen, and Tommy Johansson's really the one that I practiced because this was the only CD I had, so I literally can play this front to back, like every guitar part on this, because I loved it so much. So that's me, man.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah,
like, how did you get into music?
Oh God, me. Yeah. The tables have turned. Oh well. Yeah, I started. Well, I came in through guitar as well when I was about seven. Yeah, about 7 or 8. My uncle had a habit of like he would every now and again we'd see him and he'd turn up and he'd have a new thing. You know, one time it was like mountain biking, one time it was fishing or whatever. One time he just brought around acoustic guitars and he knew like 4 chords and so taught them to me. And then as soon as I got my head around those 4 chords, I was obsessed. I just played them like on repeat for the whole weekend basically. And then it's similar to you, I just knew that like there's some magic here, like I just became sort of fixated with the guitar. And then when he left, he'd gone, by the guitar store or whatever, and I got back from school and he'd got some guitar books. So similar thing, just like was devouring them. And then I suppose my interest in music grew from there. I had some basic song strum stuff, and then it's like, what next? Where can I take this? So rock and metal music and obviously everything from there. So I was also pretty mostly self-taught until I did like a year at college or whatever when I was like 16, 17. But I was just always obsessed with music, man.
So I do have one question I was wanting to ask.
Okay, go for it.
So I've been seeing some of your work on your Instagram and some really cool content that you've been putting out around this story. And
thank you.
As a lover of good stories myself, I'm in love with the narration and like the whole lyric and art videos. And so what was the inspiration behind that? Like, was there a concept album like Me was for Rhapsody? Was there one like that for you?
There is. So the ones that are most recently on my Instagram was from a thing that we released around Halloween. It was a collaboration. There was 4 of us that were like the main collaborators on it. And it's a full story. We created an episode basically that's about 13 minutes long, 13 minutes. It's on LovAnaverse YouTube channel. The episode is called The Consolation Philosophy. It's sort of like a short film type of thing, or as you saw with the visuals there, it's a kind of animation that's more like moving paintings than anything. But the story is like it's all performed. It's like a audio drama kind of thing, and then there's the song, and then there's kind of a little epilogue after the song. But it tells the story, and the song is part of the story. It's rock opera basically. That's kind of like the thing that I love. In this case, we called it a vampire metal opera because that was kind of that was the genre. But it's set within the LovAnaverse universe, and all the stuff I create is generally collaborative musical storytelling that's set within this universe. And so it's a continuity like the Marvel universe or, any other kind of fictional universe that has different stories and characters that all operate within the same continuity. So that's something that we're building out. And actually, I plan to start kind of unveiling more stuff about this now as we're going into this new year. But essentially that particular episode, the Constellation of Philosophy, that's kind of like the start of a new era of things to come. That's basically like the first episode, and we're working on tons more. Like tons of these with loads of different characters, loads of different genres and styles. A lot of it is rooted around metal music, rock music, alternative kind of stuff, but it spans everything because it's like fully scored as well, like what you're talking about. So there's a lot of orchestral soundtrack stuff, but you know, whatever suits the world and the story, you know, you can make any genre of music. So it's a big project. And yeah, and I'd certainly love to chat more with you about that because it, you know, as I say, I think we're very kindred spirits, and the way that you approach stuff, especially with storytelling being so key, is, yeah, you know, I mean, that resonates with me very deeply. So yeah, you know, I think it's cool to, as we said, you know, be able to chat and connect like this, you know, where we share these kind of creative philosophies.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, I've really enjoyed like even the production of that project. It's very, like you said, rock opera, which I'm a huge fan, especially like Timu Tolki's The Last Avalon or Return to Avalon or whatever, like all the Avantasia, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah, I mean, you
cool.
just did that Avantasia cover with Gideon just 2 days ago or something, a couple of days ago that came out. That was so
Yeah, I think
awesome,
so.
man. I love that.
Dude, that song is so hard to sing. Like,
Yeah.
it's not hard in the way most power metal songs are hard. Like, most power metal songs are hard because it's like a bunch of big, like, pitch jumps. That song is hard because you have to sing it so low, but in that mixed voice that Kisuke does so well. And if I'm not careful, I just sound like I'm Mickey Mouse, literally.
I thought you did it so well. I mean, I thought that was incredible that you know, I think that you're a great singer and I really love your voice, but then it's the way you're able to sing so well in different voices. And you totally nailed it, man. Like, you know, I couldn't believe that you came in with like that kind of profile, you know, vocally.
Yeah, Kisuke is always like man, I got to do this guy some justice. You know, I got to do something creative with, because some artists like Northtail, you know, I'm a big fan of Bill Hudson. Bill Hudson and I are good friends. And
Nice.
and so that cover, like, there's only one way you can sing that, because Guilherme, he is such a vocal beast, but it's so like right at the break. It's so compressed, gritty, mixed voice. You can't really sing that any other way. But Kisuke is one of those artists that a lot of different people, if you look up like Halloween covers, like there's girls who sing him, there's guys who sing him. It's just like Andre Matos. He has this voice that people can interpret in different ways. And so that's why I really like singing those types of singers with that more European, less gritty, more just clean kind of sound.
I think that's a good point, actually, considering we spoke about your journey and focused especially on guitar. But what about your voice, man? When did you first start singing, and what's the journey been like with that?
So again, Tommy Johansson was the inspiration behind that. He was the first time that I really thought to myself, like, singing is a lot harder than I thought it was. And I never really realized that, because I went into my closet and, you know, started to try to like scream these things out while family was downstairs wondering what I was doing. And I'm just in there like, you know, like doing falsetto in my little mid-puberty weird voice.
Brilliant, yeah.
It was so bad. You can even hear my first, the Futureland cover that I did on YouTube. I was singing it in falsetto, and that was really the thing that sparked my curiosity, was how hard it was to sing like Tommy. Because Tommy, you know, he has such a Kisuke, that light, I mean, he does do gritty stuff sometimes, but very clean. It's very, very head voicey, even though it's like mid voice. I would call it like a heady mixed voice. And so the struggle of not being able to sing like that and not being able to like hit those notes the way I wanted to, which was never a struggle for me to hit those notes because I always had a high voice. Like I used to be able to sing like a C, like in harmonies, like way up high, like a whistle voice C, but in falsetto. And so the hard part for me was figuring out, how do I sing this where it actually sounds pleasant? Because I would have my grandparents over at the house and they'd be like, "What are you doing?" And they used to sing in Catholic
no,
choir, so they know singing, like they're
for
good
sure.
singers. And especially my grandpa, he was always like, really be careful with your voice because you can hurt your voice. And now, I've learned that lesson now, and he was right, But yeah, so my singing journey began like when I was 14, and I heard the Above the Sky video, and I saw the bass thing that I was like, this is. And I never took vocal lessons until recently, which I wish I could have. But at that point, I had a lawn care business that I actually operated. And so I didn't really want to take any of that money and put it into vocal lessons. I just wanted to save it for college. And so it was really hard to find that direction because power metal is one of those genres. There's not videos online on how to sing it. If I'm trying to sing Bruno Mars or Lauren Daigle or something, which I have looked up before because I really like some of their stuff. Again, I have such vastly weird, different music interests.
It's gotta be done, man.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta listen to something different in the gym than in the car than in the home. Like, it's always different for me. I'll have my leg day metal playlist with Wage War or something like really heavy, and then I'll go home and listen to Andrea Bocelli. So
it's beautiful.
or Michael Bublé. I really enjoy Michael Bublé's style of singing, or Frank Sinatra. That's going to be implemented more in the second album too.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very. I know that sounds weird. Don't worry, I'm not going to be like singing like a crooner in power metal, but it'll make more sense. It's just the voice inflections. Like, not to get off track here, but Bublé has he sounds like he's smiling, and he talks like a teen 20s man. They have a very brash kind of tone they're talking in. It's a little more nasally, and he's, he always sounds like he's smiling and he's talking. So that's going to be a little more in the second album.
I love that.
But not to get off track.
Cool.
I love that kind of stuff. I just enjoy singing, which is what also brought me from the spark to like discipline. Because as you know, like you can't just love the art and then keep going as long if you don't have discipline. So I practiced too much, and so much that I would get hoarse and have all these issues that I addressed in my video. Because I loved it so much. And now I just know part of that love is taking a break. But it was really, in answer to your question, just a lot of years of practicing, like listening to a video of someone singing like Christian Eriksen or North Tail, Guilherme or whatever, and like going and trying to do it. I just click the video, go into my room, and try it again,
That's it.
And that's about it, man.
Awesome, man. And yeah, I mean, you just referenced to this video that you put out relatively recently about damaging your voice, and what you put into that. And there was a couple of things you mentioned. Like you mentioned something about in that video about how the doctor essentially said that you'd have to choose between like singing and like harsh vocals and things like that, because harsh vocals has been a part of what you've done in the past as well. Does that mean that you're not planning on incorporating harsh vocals anymore, or what's the situation with that?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure as of right now. I'm still going to use harsh vocals like in the second album. It's going to be, I think, just a tiny bit. My plan in the future is to get people who are harsh vocalists to do that for me, because now I have those connections. Not because I can do it, and I've been in a couple like bands here in Tulsa and auditioned for them where I did harsh vocals, and like I enjoy doing it. It's just when I've been resting my voice and clean singing like I have for the last 3 months over the holiday season, I actually can't like do a good fry scream. Like something about the way my voice works, like, and then if I'm fry screaming, like when I was releasing I actually did a Lorna Shore cover. I covered To the Hellfire, and I was going to release it, but that's on the hard drive that got corrupted. So we'll see if I get that. But I enjoy singing those intense things. But when I'm singing those, like the Cradle of Filth one, I can't do my main vocals. Like I literally can't hit those same notes, and it's kind of a little bit painful sometimes if I push it, because in the studio, sometimes it sounds better if you're just like really put your throat into it for a specific line.
Yes, sure.
And I know some professional singers do that a little too, but I don't think I'm going to do it as far as like even the Frigid Spell stuff. If I do release more with Frigid Spell or with Antagonist or anything, I'm going to do a much more safe scream. I'm going to tame it back, make sure I'm not hurting myself, and then to the rest of production, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Cool. Yeah, well, I guess it's just all part of the journey, isn't it? And learning to, find your voice and what works best for you. And yeah, well, but no, it's cool. And I thought it was cool that you shared that as well. It's insightful for others. And yeah, really, really, really great. And I mean, thinking of that, I just also wanted to mention, I mean, the most recent thing, well, aside from that cover that you posted recently, it was the single you released, God Used You, which is obviously musically somewhat of a departure from Skies of Dragonlight. That's an incredibly moving track that, is very emotional, really gave me a lot of chills listening to that. Would you like to talk a bit about that song?
I would love that. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, that song is the fastest song I've ever written, period. Like, it just flowed out of me. And not all songs can be like that, to be honest. Especially those Skies of Dragonlight songs, like I was talking about my process. So you can't really just, like, get in a dark room and speak your mind. Because I'm not thinking about dragons and stuff on a daily basis, None of us are. So. Well, I mean, sometimes. I conjure up my spells and...
Yeah,
I have this little treasure chest back there in my closet where I keep all my Red Fair gear.
Yeah.
So I was like, everyone? Right? Dude, you said it, man.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, but that song was very, like, easy to write because I really wrote it from my heart. So the song, for anyone who hasn't heard, it's about my mom, April. So since I was about, let's see, it was 2020, so I was 15 or something. It was 2020, she got sick. And we still don't really know what it was or, like, how, she got so sick. But she never really recovered. And eventually, in October, she did pass away. And it's been a very emotional year. And it's been, frankly, very difficult to keep posting content and, like, keep putting in that effort and keep staying in the game. And I do feel a little bit like I'll text some people from the power metal industry, but I just don't feel like myself. I feel like I'm, like, more awkward now just because it does change you, But the song was one of those songs that I did to pay homage to her. I actually wrote it for her 50th birthday to play it for her. So I didn't actually plan on releasing it originally. I just wrote it to sing to her, and I brought her to our church. I walked her down, or my dad walked her down, like, the big old aisle, in the lobby and stuff. And then at the end, there was this Bible study room where I was waiting, and I got my little desk speakers, and I just brought them. That wasn't a good view of that, but I brought my desk speakers, and our room's a mess anyway. You don't need to see that. Going through some renovations right now. But anyway, studio renovations. But yeah, so that was a beautiful moment. I really, 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 really enjoyed getting to play that for her. And then releasing it was really just a product of so many people asked for the song at her service that I was like, you know what? It's completely not what I've done. Like, I think because of the circumstances, everyone kind of understood why I released it, who were power metal fans of, mine. But it is very divergent. And so I was a little bit worried about, like, even personally, to just be like, hey, here's a Christian song. Because, I mean, I really don't care what religion anyone is. Like, I respect that, and I think it's great to have different opinions, and most of my friends think differently than mine. All of them do. But it was, like, a leap of faith. Like, I kind of felt awkward about releasing something like that. But I do enjoy the song and the music video. My dad actually filmed it. It's just a DIY, like, little camcorder, because my nice camera, the Canon one, the memory card that I bought for it, like, wasn't working, and I was over it that day. Like, it was cloudy and I needed to do it that day, so I was just like, grab the camcorder, like, let's go, just with the little handheld one. So it was really enjoyable process to create that thing, and, like, even to edit it. Most videos I abhor editing, but I enjoyed doing that one. So I think it turned out okay, and I hope that it blesses people without throwing them too off. Because I have, not to get too off track, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too long here.
No, not at all.
I have been writing more songs, like, from my own personal life lately.
Nice.
I'd say I've written, like, 8 songs, and they're songs that I think are very, very good. But they're songs that you would imagine listening to on K-Love or whatever the Christian mainstream station is. And so that's another thing, kind of like what my laryngoscopy dude, ENT doctor, jeez, if I can speak, ENT guy, that's what he said. You got to choose something. And I have a mentor of mine who was talking about, you probably need to choose, like, do power metal or do that. And so it is kind of weird. Like, it's not like I'm giving up on, like, I'm working on the second album, and like doing power metal. It's just, it doesn't inspire me in the way it used to because of being a 20-year-old and having your mom pass. Just, I think it speeds up the way you think as far as maturing. So I'm sure I'll return to writing those songs. I just, even today, like, I tried to write a power metal song and, like, it sounds okay. It's just I'm regurgitating Halloween. Like, I'm not making anything original, So I know those, creative seasons come and go.
Absolutely.
And I'm trusting that will come again. So it's just really a transitional time for me. I've thought about, like, I've tried to record a couple of those songs that are, like, more, I don't know, you'd call them just Christian, like, rock pop, I don't know, hard rock or something. So I don't know, like, my original idea for Skies of Dragonlight was actually to call it, like, Garrett Campbell's Magic Tale, for, like, a opera kind of thing. It had, the big old logo, kind of like Marco's Magic Opera, which I love the music, something like that. So that's probably what I should have done, so that the Therian Saga could just be its own thing. And that's, like, identifiable, but we'll see what happens in the near future. Don't worry, there will be more power metal. But yeah, it's a weird time right now.
Yeah, which is understandable, man. I mean, as you say, that's just such a significant shift to go through in life. And as you say, it's seasons, man. And especially, yeah, it's incredible that you're still so young, but you speak with a lot of experience and maturity, which is, I have big respect for that. But yes, I do believe that absolutely there's seasons and you go through moments of where your inspiration is in different place. Yeah, I do have no doubt that you just have so much resonance with the whole power metal thing that, that spark will come, when it's due and the fireworks will go. I have no doubt about it, but it's also so understandable that you would look to, express yourself from a place of introspection, and write more personal songs. I really like that, and it harks back to what you said much earlier in the call, where you said that your focus right now is about authenticity, and I think that really says it a lot. Like, yeah, man, you just have to be yourself, and I think that regardless of saying, oh, this is power metal and this is not, this is Christian music, this is whatever, it's all Garrett Campbell, right? It's all totally authentic to you, and that's what matters more than anything, and you can whatever categorize it how you want and put it down the line, but you've just got to do what's right for you. So I mean, vocally I'd have thought, I can't imagine that the style of singing between the two would compromise each other too much in terms of, like, you have to choose one or the other. I understand if potentially if the harsh vocals are hurting your voice, then that perhaps, but yeah, I think that God used you. That's a beautiful song, really beautiful song. And I must admit, at first I didn't have full comprehension of the context, but then when I really just sat down and I watched it, like, yeah, you put in such a beautiful tribute to your mom, and it says it at the start, and it contextualizes the track, and, like, immediately I just felt it. And it's amazing that you said that song just flew out, because it just flowed, because it's things like that. That's really the beauty of art, isn't it? It's moments like that of magic, and it's almost like the song isn't even yours as such in a kind of egoistic sense. It's really just like it comes from another place, and we're just a vessel for it. It's like we're
it
in
wrote
service
itself.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's beautiful, man, and I think it's great that you shared that. And are you thinking that then the songs that you're writing that are more in that kind of vein, are those things that you're intending to release, or planning to release, like, sooner rather than later, or is it separate? Have you got as far as thinking about that, or are you just focusing on creating right now?
I'm in the creative like stage. So I tried to record this song. It's called Thanks for Everything. It's actually about my ex-girlfriend who I broke up with about, I'd say, a month after my mom passed. So that whole time was
Wow.
very,
What a
I was going
period,
through it,
huh?
man. It's funny
That's
though,
it.
like you learn so much. Like people would have
Yeah.
thought I would have been depressed, but I think I learned so much. I learned how to not be depressed.
That's amazing. That's some strength, man, again, and some maturity. Like, that's not everyone's going to be able to muster that, man. So, again, it's a gift to people to share your experience and your light in that way, man.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
hope it encourages
good
people,
bit
man.
up.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
tough. No way of saying it. Like I won't lie. I mean, dude, I've cried more in the last year than I ever have.
I
Just
imagine.
straight up, which is good. Like I feel like God kind of taught me how to cry again. Um,
Yeah.
but back to your original question, I do intend on. I don't want to let those songs just sit on my computer forever, but I don't really know like the way I'm going to release them. I don't know if I'm going to create like a band title and like create a separate Instagram or something and like
Yeah.
create a Christian project, because they are like, I mean, there's Christians who like power metal like myself, but they are two different fan bases. And so as a artist, you kind of have to be aware of that. Um, and I do want to release them, but I don't have a set date right now. The main focus is finish the album and get the second album out, because I want to follow up all these covers and power metal stuff. I feel like people keep asking me, like even at church or at school, they're like, when are you going to release the second album? So I want to get that out there like ASAP. But yeah, that's the main focus right now.
That's
And get
cool.
over this
Yeah.
song.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Yeah. That's cool. You just got to feel it out. I'm sure it will make itself clear, how it needs to be. And, you've spoken, obviously, lots of reference to the church and Christianity and stuff. I gather that's a really big part of your life. And I was curious just to get an insight into some of your interests, and what you're into kind of outside of the specific kind of music stuff that we've spoken about.
Oh man, that's a good one. I can't right now because my rib is killing me, but I love going to the gym. I love like getting outside, even playing basketball. There's some people in my neighborhood who like to play basketball, so we'll do 2-on-2 and stuff. I love being active. Like, I tried for about, I don't know, the last couple of years to do some really high intensity like gym workouts. I was eating like 5,000 calories a day. So I've really
Yeah.
taken up a liking to just health, because I notice
Amazing.
like I haven't gained a lot of weight. I have a very hard time gaining
Yeah.
weight. So
Yeah.
I've
Yeah. I'm the
enjoyed,
same, man.
dude, it's so hard though.
Yeah. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
are
It's
just
up.
like,
It's when you have this like specific body composition. It's like, I think they call it like ectomorph, or
yeah,
I think that's the one.
yeah.
People like you and I, and it's like, dude, it's so hard to put on weight, man.
Dude,
Every day
and
you gotta eat like 5,000 calories and like hit it hard.
literally,
Yeah.
it's insane. And I remember I was eating that much, and like I gained about 1 pound after a month of eating that much. And at that
Oh
point, I was like,
man.
dude, like if it's gonna take this much, and I was feeling like I was gonna puke, man, like every day. So
Yeah.
I would wake up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
college,
Too
I
much.
would wake up, go to the gym, get back. So I wake up at like 6, go to the gym, get back, eat like 10 pancakes with a bunch of maple syrup, go straight to school, bring a protein shake, eat it at school. I mean, that was miserable. Yeah, I enjoy exercise, like fitness, mostly just like my body. I don't think it's ever going to be Dwayne Johnson, even if I got a super great personal trainer. So I just want to make my vessel for what I'm doing stronger, So I enjoy that, but I try to keep it a positive, because when I was starting, I was really negative. I was just like, I hate how skinny I am, and I'm going to go to the gym so people don't
Yeah.
bully me as much or whatever, I'm like, it doesn't really matter, just be authentic, like be a good person. And yeah, so I enjoy that. I do enjoy like church and stuff. I would say since college, it's not like as big of a part of my life as it used to be, just because I'm so busy with school. But I used to be the youth worship leader at Tulsa Bible Church where I go. And I really enjoyed that. It was so much fun just, coordinating people to play, printing out songs, working with the people who sang and who, do things to work on the songs. And it's just a really fun process to get to help people in that way, like help them have a creative outlet, really. And I even brought up some people who had never been on the worship team and kind of you know, show them the ropes a little bit. So I enjoy activities at church and stuff. Also, just like anything to do with music, you know. I like going to shows. I don't that much just because I'm a college student trying to save as much as I can, trying to graduate debt free, which is hard in this economy. But yeah, so I really don't like go out much anymore. I used to be a huge skateboarder actually. So I don't know if you can see over here, I have 2 skateboards over there that I used to skateboard quite frequently. Like every night I'd be out till like 2 a.m.
Wow.
But I actually I shattered my wrist skateboarding.
Oh dear.
And after that I'm kind of like,
Yeah, that's dangerous.
I'd rather have a long career playing guitar, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So how about you, man? What do you like to do?
Oh gosh. I mean, to be honest, man, in this day, at this point in my life, like I really came to just like, it just helped me to narrow things down. And so I care about work, which for me, like the main part of it is about the creativity, just because, you know, when you're wired in a way that people like you and I are, you kind of need it. So it's just a way of life, right? So all about building a business and stuff in a way that can incorporate as much of that as possible for my life. So work and creativity, music, business, storytelling, all of this stuff, that's my thing over here. And then just my family life, you know, I have 2 kids now. My son is 3 and just had a daughter. Yeah, she's like 6 months old now at the time of recording. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. So yeah, you know, I love just giving as much to that as I possibly can. You know, it's such an incredible experience. I was always so obsessed with music and art and everything that you know, I almost thought like I couldn't possibly do anything else, you know. But you know, when you have that, it's just the most amazing and special thing in the world. You know, I value it more than anything. So both of those things just require so much energy that I kind of feel like anything else is only going to take, you know, I have to take resource out of these things to give it to that. So, you know, I like various things a little bit, but really those 2 things are my life, you know.
That's good. So I have a personal struggle recently, like being in college, doing a music major is a very weird process because you're investing in music, yet most of the stuff you're learning you aren't going to need as a power metal musician.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I do
all
take
theoretical,
lessons,
right? Yeah.
yeah, and it's all like classical music stuff. So I would like to know from my own curiosity and my own trying to figure this out, how do you focus on the type of creative work that you want to do and find a way to make that convert into sales? Because that's the hard part I have.
That's a great question. And I tell you what, that is something that I think I've put a lot of my time and energy and effort into. And more recently, I've come to think that I perhaps put too much focus into that. You know, I've always been about being authentic to yourself. I don't think good art comes from creating something that you're trying to anticipate what people will like or buy. I think that's commodities, that's business rather than art, you know. And I think that the real great art that has an impact and then also largely sells, or at least goes on to really kind of create something substantial, yeah, it's just got to come from your heart. You've got to create what you want to create for yourself and do it the way that you think it needs to be. And you need to just have so much belief in it and so much passion for it that, yeah, you're willing to just whatever, go at it for years and years. And if it feels like people are against you or don't get it or criticize or whatever, then you just have so much passion for it that you keep going. But yeah, I think you have to try and detach from that result as much as possible, I think. And then I think that you can find a way to really create something for yourself. I think that the commodities market almost, you know, when you're trying to create a commercial product to sell, don't get me wrong, I do think it's good to think of like the bigger picture when it comes to like, okay, we're creating something. And then if you're a solo musician, if you're a band, it really comes with a sense of entrepreneurship. So you do want to think about the full package, like how are we presenting this? But for me, that kind of stuff is still creative and it's an extension of the art, you know? So yeah, I mean, that's what I believe in. Otherwise, like, I just think my goal has always been about like entrepreneurship. You have to create the opportunities for yourself. And I think in the arts, it's a very difficult game if you're not in a position to do that. And obviously we've had a million stories of artists being exploited by dodgy labels or whatever it is, you know. But at the same time, if we're not willing to engage with those things and we're kind of hoping somebody else is going to run the business, then, you know, it's hard to get upset when they take all the money because they're doing the business. You know what I mean? I do always try and encourage people to get as much of a hold on that side of things as possible. I've always done that, but I must admit I have spent years now focusing so much on business that I've really come to a place where I thought like it's time to just go fully in with creating what's in my heart, you know, in a big way, do it with conviction, and then I feel like I can take that and put what I've learned to the test when it comes to business stuff, marketing stuff, so on. It is important, it's a part of it, but it's about a good balance. But I do think in the art, it's really key to just be authentic to yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Man, that's some good stuff. I think the art has to come first, and then that's why most people have a label, is so that they can do the work to make it marketable.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be honest, like, take some famous artist, I don't know, Noah Kahan or something. I don't know who people listen to these days, but, like, you know, he could just as easily be a guy with, like, 20 views on his reels as he could with millions. And so it's like, do the art first, be authentic. The hard part for me, and I like what you're saying in there, like separating the art from the business mentally, even if they overlap in the business world. I think that's huge because you don't know like what works. And so I even find as like a producer who's having to produce my own music that when I have a song idea and I start putting it together, I really wish a lot of times that I was in somebody else's studio so they could just, you know, do all the different mixing work. You can't see my mixer. Here's my mixer. You could just, you know, they could just do all that work and then I could just create, because it's the analytical work that I can do and I'm pretty good at it. You know, I'm a very black and white personality. But yeah, I like what you were saying, because that's a big struggle of mine is let's not make the like Garrett Campbell personal brand or and I don't even have one. You know, I have like not very many followers or anything. So, and that's not the point. That's not why I do it. But like, I don't want that to be me. But sometimes it feels like nowadays you have to have that to be an artist nowadays. Like you have to be that image, whether it's like, I'm the girl with green hair who's depressed and I sing about depression. We all know who that is, you know, like, and everyone can associate with that in at least some way.
Okay.
So I think that's tough for me because I'm just a pretty ordinary Midwestern dude, you know, like I'm not insanely attractive. I'm not like insanely rich. I can't put a ton of money into that thing. So I think it's a blessing and a curse. Like it comes with its own challenges to try to like get yourself into the music world. The one thing, I have this buddy, he's a drummer and he's always asking me for advice. And every time I'm like, why are you asking me for advice? Like, I'm not like making it or something, but I try to help if I can. But I guess one thing I find myself telling myself more and more is spend more of your time in that deep creative work, no matter what your business is. And then the marketing comes afterwards, like you were saying.
I think as you say, with musicians, creatives, all sorts, like it feels like we have to do all these different things. You know, I think it's about wearing hats. A lot of people say that musicians have to wear a lot of hats and so on. And so I think it's about modes. You know what I mean? But as you say, like it's the actual creative flow is kind of like a spiritual need for people like us, I think. So it's like really important. I think it's vital to our health and our entire well-being to spend enough time in that. I think that, again, I've definitely felt in my experience like I have starved myself of that often. because I'm thinking, no, I have to do serious stuff first, responsible stuff, and then I can allow myself more of that time. But I really come to realize that, yeah, that's where your kind of vitality comes from. So I do think that, yeah, you need to spend as much time in that as you can, but then switch hats and then be like, okay, now I'm going to be the label marketing guy. The thing is, man, it's like we can, in many ways, that's very tough. And we can easily complain about how we have to be this entire team of people, and that's crazy. But at the same time, it's a blessing and a curse, man, because the point is, before the internet in the way that it was, we just didn't have the luxury of the choice. Like, we were literally fully dependent. We were fully at the mercy of getting a contract from a big label. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to release our music. There wasn't a Spotify or a YouTube you could just upload it to. Like literally you wouldn't get a record pressed or anybody would ever hear it, if you didn't have some kind of distribution from a big thing. So, now the power is in your hands. You know what I mean? You can do it. It's really challenging, like really, really challenging, but you can do it. And I think that is a beautiful thing. So pros and cons. It's a really tough journey. I think that if you want to get into music because you see like big pop stars, like they're major celebrities and they make loads of money, and you're thinking that you're going to make money.
No way.
That's not the reason to get into music or anything in the arts. Like 100%, man. Like the only way you can do this is if you just love it so much that you can't not do it, Yeah. And then, man, it's just resilience. It's hard work over long periods of time, and it's patience, and it's just putting yourself out there. And that's it, man. You don't need to have a gimmick. You don't, or whatever. You'll find it over time. You'll carve that personal brand, as it were. You'll find yourself, but you do it, man, just by putting yourself out again and again, consistent over the years. And so it seems like a lot of nothing before it starts to pick up. But if you're talking to people, it doesn't have to be thousands of people, millions of people that are viral, so on. You keep talking to people, you keep putting yourself out there and making yourself open, then it might be a little bit abstract for some people, but I believe so much of it is energetic. And so much of it is like us needing to like do our own sort of hero's journey within ourselves to really kind of find ourselves and overcome our own, process our lives for ourselves. And we do that like through our art, and it's all a learning journey. And I feel that, once we can get to a point where we, where it's really vibing, let's say, then I think good things start to happen. We raise that energy within ourselves and things start to work, things start to flow, and I think as long as you're keeping that energy circulating, you're doing the right thing.
Amen. 100%, man.
I mean, if you get me going though on, any philosophical ramblings, then we'll have the longest podcast ever, man. So, even though I'd gladly talk to you all day and all night, man, it's loads of fun. But I think, it'd be cool to like wrap things up a little bit. I think the last thing that I wanted to ask you though was just, we've touched upon a whole bunch of things here, but just to focus it, I suppose it's the beginning of a new year now. What are your goals going forward, musically and in life?
So my main goal is be a healthier person mentally, which I think means, like you say, having more of that creative time, specifically carving out that time. So I think musically, that means I'm going to work more on my album. I'm going to get that out there. My hope, don't quote me on this, is to release the second album in 2025, probably like in the fall, if I had to guess. So that's my hope. And then personally, it's just being consistent with being okay if you're not completely consistent. Like my addiction is to being even Steven, like always having to do the same routine. Part of that I think is just like, I'm black and white and I've always just had autism. And so that's like a struggle of mine. So in 2025, I want to be kinder to myself and let myself create and not judge it, as opposed to like, oh, you can't write that because it's not symphonic power metal enough. Well, like heck, a lot of my songs that I like the Skies of Dragonlight like theme, that was created from a pop song. It was this catchy song, and I was like, oh, that would make a good riff. And so I don't know. That's my main goal, is to just be more creative, honestly. I do want to finish my 2 years of college and then transfer to another university. So that's a big thing that I might be offline for a little bit trying to figure out at some point. But yeah, being consistent and being okay with not being okay sometimes. I think that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great statement, man, because you're right. Like, life is full of shade. We have to take the full experience. It can't all be sunshine and rainbows all the time, right? And we've got to be able to navigate these seasons and so on. So that's really cool that you said that. And the fact that you're studying music at college now, transfer to another university to continue studying music.
Yes.
So for you in life, are you really set on like a career in music? That's really what you're saying.
Yes, 100%. It's one of those things, like,
Amazing.
I can't find myself doing anything else. I can't envision that. And I know if I was a lawyer and made a bunch of money and put that into music, I would still hate most of my days. And then I would have fun on the weekends, I want my music to be my career on the week. So that is scary for me. I really wonder, like, hey, can I support a family with this? But I think everyone thinks that. So that is my goal, is to transfer and either do like a music degree or a music performance degree. And I'd like to get into at least getting my certification in production. I think I could get that pretty easily, just so it's more applicable if someone wanted to hire me for studio work or something like that. But yes, I do want to do music for a career. So I'll see you at the Grammys.
Yes. Amazing, man. Amazing. I totally respect you for it, man. And the thing is, I feel like, you know what you're getting yourself in for. Like, it's a tough road, man. But, that's why you write songs about, dragons and evil mages, right? It's like, that's what all of that stuff is about. Like, you got to go the impossible road and face that like ominous, undefeatable monster, but somehow you're just going to do it anyway, man. And that's it. That's what it's about.
Amen. Dude, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure, man. I really look forward to chatting more.
Sounds good.
Cool. And I mean, just shout out for anybody there that, if they're still listening now and haven't followed you on everything, I mean, then of course, absolutely go and do that. Like, do you want to do a little plug for where you'd like to send people?
Sure, of course. So guys, make sure to follow The Adventure on Instagram and YouTube specifically. Also, you can check out my work on Spotify. I have my albums and singles up on there. You can also find the artists that I collaborated with on there if you look at the featured on part down towards the bottom of the page. So yeah, I'll see you guys around. And if you have any questions, or if you'd like to know more about any of the stuff that Will and I talked about today, you can always DM me on Instagram or email me at garrettcampbellmusic@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Garrett. Links to everything will be in the show notes for people listening. Thank you so much again, Garrett. And I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Thank you. Good to see you, Will. Take care.
Cool.